Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Dave.
And join us every Thursday for a new episode of Two Player Bros, a podcast about two guys who play way too many video games. Join me and Dave as we talk about the latest in Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and VR news, previews, and reviews. We have it all, and we play it all.
And join us every other week for Post Game, where we play through and dive deep into our favorite modern classics and new releases.
That's Two Player Bros, available every Thursday wherever you get your podcast, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Mike Butler.
It's October. You know what that means.
A whole nother month of forgotten horror. That's right. We're bringing you 4 new forgotten horror flicks for your listening pleasure. Mike, what are they?
John Carpenter's Vampires, The House with a Clock in its Walls, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and the 2013 remake of Evil Dead.
Ooh, sounds spooky.
It is spooky.
Stake your calendar every Wednesday in October as we bring you the spookiest in forgotten cinema.
Forgotten horror, everybody. Get some.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Pat Whalen.
Pat is a lifelong comic book geek.
And Mike is a filmmaker and storyteller. So naturally, a bulk of our conversations surround the world of the Marvel movies. Some consider the MCU one of the greatest achievements in modern-day filmmaking, and others just think they're comic book movies. Each episode will tackle one film and discuss the differences between the comic book and what's on screen. We'll explore the growth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe from its inception to present day and beyond, and have a little fun along the way. You may not have asked for it. You certainly don't need it, but you'll be happy we're here. We think. This is yet another MCU podcast.
And we've returned for
Episode 3 of Phase 2.
For best movie.
Now we have a guest here. So we have brought back on Mr. Mike Butler, who is my partner in Forgotten Cinema. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, hi, Mike.
So Mike does not like this movie. And
that's
Pat
not
does
true.
like this movie. No,
I have issues with this movie, but Captain America
as I
remains
said,
my favorite.
Mike does not like this movie, and Pat does love this movie. So we are talking about Captain America: Winter Soldier. Let me run through just kind of like the brief facts and all that stuff, and all the people behind it, which everyone probably knows, and then we'll dive right into the movie itself. Captain America: Winter Soldier came out Friday, April 4th, 2014. Has a runtime of 136 minutes. Rated PG-13. Production budget of $170 million. I really have to start looking at the production budgets in terms of comparing the others.
Yeah, to see how much is added to them
Right,
afterwards.
Because this seems like more than Thor
so.
was. Opening weekend of $95 million.
Feels more than Thor had to.
Domestic, it brought in $259 million. Worldwide, $714 million. I'm surprised. I thought it would do more. Maybe it doesn't play well over... Well, it did more money overseas. I'm surprised it didn't do more money. I would think
it doesn't have Tony Stark in it.
Do you think that's why? So
that equation for the Marvel films.
Because Iron Man 3 did $1.2 billion?
Yes.
Yeah. Directed by the Russo brothers. They return for Civil War. This is their first one?
This is their first one.
They return for Civil War and then the last two Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. Written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. They did the original Captain America, and then they actually returned for Infinity War and Endgame as well. So I guess clearly they work well with the Russo brothers.
They're the staff writers.
There you go. Nice. Composer Henry Jackman. He actually replaced Alan Silvestri in this movie, and I knew that. Like I got that information after the fact, so I didn't really look into that too much.
I didn't look into it either, but I know that Silvestri comes back later on. I think he was just busy.
Yeah.
During this time, I could probably pull it up while we're talking.
That's fine. Cinematography by Trent Opalak, and he returns for an Endgame, and then obviously produced by Kevin Feige and among other people. So you have Chris Evans returning as Steve Rogers. Scarlett Johansson's in this. It's Natasha Romanoff for Black Widow, but they never call her Black Widow in the movie. They never call her that, but she's in the credit. It says Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. But I don't remember anyone ever saying to her.
Do they call her Widow?
Do they?
In the scene when they're in the bunker, I think it shows her name, some of her stats.
Well, yeah,
about her.
but maybe.
Does it show Black Widow on that?
With Mike's favorite scene when they have, what is his name again, Mike?
Arnim Zola.
Yeah, where he's on the tape deck.
I am a cassette tape, a Swiss cassette tape.
Sam Jackson returns as Nick Fury. You have Robert Redford in this movie as Alexander Pierce, his one and only foray into the Marvel universe, I guess.
Second. Well, first of two. He's in Endgame as the same character.
Come on, that doesn't really count, does it?
It's in a different timeline. It's in a different scene.
Oh, that's okay. Correct. Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, or, well, now I've got a note about this, that he's not actually the Winter Soldier they're referring to in this movie. Do you know that?
No.
Okay, well, he quote unquote known as the Winter Soldier. I'll get into that later.
Okay.
Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson or Falcon. Kobe Smulders is back as Maria Hill. The ever popular Frank Grillo as Brock Rumlow. We'll talk about him. Emily VanCamp is in this as, I guess, Agent 13 / Kate / the niece of Peggy Carter, right?
Sharon Carter.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's got a lot going on.
Maximiliano Hernandez as Jasper Sitwell. Haley Atwell as Pat's favorite character, Peggy Carter.
Absolutely.
And Toby Jones as Mike's favorite character, Arnim Zola. All right. So obviously we kind of break this down. We go movie, comic, the difference between the movie and the comic, and then its role in the MCU. So let's just talk about the movie in and of itself. And I will lead the floor for you two, since you both have kind of differing opinions on it. I don't know, Mike, what's your biggest issue with it?
Oh man. My biggest issue with it are the helicarriers. I hate the helicarriers. I think that the dumbest thing, I think as soon as they take off in the sky and the movie becomes a sci-fi action thriller, which I get it's a superhero movie, but you're watching basically Captain Bourne. And then all of a sudden you're in the sky with these helicarriers that are going to crash into the ground. Their whole plan is to crash them into Washington, D.C., which they're 3,000 feet in the air. You crash 3 helicarriers the size of them, you're leveling at least D.C. It's like an asteroid coming down. They're not going to fall exactly where they took off. Your whole plan is to fire these guns at them. Half the guns are missing their shot, launching shells who knows where into the capital city. Shrapnel's going everywhere. He has killed thousands of people. At least, like, it's just ridiculous. And that is so CG. You cut half your action, your fight scenes, which were some of the best fight scenes to this day, some of the best hand-to-hand fight scenes in any Marvel movie.
You're talking about like in the elevator.
Elevator scene's great. The fight with the Algerian on the boat is great. The fight with Winter Soldier on the ground is great. And now you're all of a sudden blocking it with these green screen sets and these quick cuts while you cut to these video game helicarriers duking it out.
Right.
I have no vested interest in them whatsoever.
Just to jump in before Pat tells you you're wrong.
Oh,
the one thing that about the helicarrier thing is like they have the discs at the
three
hard drive things, and
chips.
You must replace these, but like when they go in there's about 40 to 50 that slide down. I'm like, how do you know which one to
just these 3?
We all went to the school of Rogue One. Took the same plot point where this happened first, but
that's classic ship chips. Just swap these 3 out.
Well, was Rogue One? Was that done when Marvel became part of Marvel?
Yes.
So because
they went back to the well for that plot.
Well, there's a thing out there that because Disney owns everything now, that you have start to see just basically the same storylines filter into Star Wars now that you have in Marvel, which is not a good thing.
No. What worked? Oh, did that work? Let's copy it.
Oh, everybody is quippy now. That's in the Star Wars movie.
Oh, guess what? Darth Vader lives on cassette tapes now. Which brings me to problem number 2. Arnim Zola living off cassette tapes is so dumb. So dumb. First of all, he's your mastermind, but he's on this abandoned Air Force base and he's on a cassette tape, which cassette tapes age and degrade. But you bring him down and the bunker is dusty. It is old and dusty, but there's one clean USB port, which you mentioned to me earlier. That's clean. Everything else is dusty. I'm sorry, they almost lost the Star Wars reels, which they've cleaned up numerous times because they've degraded. He's on 20,000 cassette tapes. You can't put classic Doom on 20,000 cassette tapes. And they're just letting this guy live down there. And his whole plan is to reveal his plan and kill himself. Clearly, if I was on 20,000 cassette tapes, I'd want to die too. And I get that Arnim Zola in the comics lives in computers, but he lives so ridiculously on this cassette tape computer. You can't upgrade him or boot him up.
You can't put him into the network.
Yeah. He's nowhere else.
I want a cutscene where the person that had to install the USB dock to the old equipment has to find the right cord and just trying to figure out how to get to it. That's not taken. It's not taken.
1972 technology does not mix with a USB wire. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Hey, you cleaned down there, didn't you? Yeah, I dusted. I cleaned. That's just those things really do.
Care to respond?
I won't disagree with any of these points. These are fair points to be made, especially in the transition from the really well done. I think it does have some of the most iconic action set pieces.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Prior to the helicarrier scene, even before that, you had the ship fight, like you mentioned, with Baldric the Leaper, the Nick Fury attack in the streets of DC, and then of course Winter Soldier catching the S.H.I.E.L.D.
on the roof,
on the rooftop,
yeah.
And that. But again, you got Cap is chasing after him. The Winter Soldier gets a 3-second head start, and Cap just gives up. Like,
yeah.
He doesn't even look down.
No,
he just looks straight.
No, does the film have problems? Yes, the film has problems. Like, why is Nick Fury on the operating table in full view of everybody else in this hospital?
Did you notice that? I didn't notice this the first time, but when he's there, you have Cap and Black Widow watching, and then you have people just kind of like start filtering in, like Grillo's there as whatever his name is, Rumlow and Sitwell. I'm just like, how many people are in this room? They're all just keep coming in like they're like
Family only.
If you didn't know they were an evil presence before, you kind of got that idea now because they're just always looking over everyone's shoulder.
That being said, I really enjoy this movie. I have a great time watching it every time. Anthony Mackie, first of all, is fantastic and brings a whole new charisma to any of Cap's sidekicks. The Howling Commandos in the first film were great, but Anthony Mackie is just a whole new ball of energy that we get. And if you've ever watched the behind the scenes with him, it's just a lot of fun. So I recommend that. 2, yes, it has a 3 Days of the Condor vibe to it, which I think you guys can both agree. Highly enjoy that movie.
Let me cut you off right there. Mike, why don't we did 3 Days of the Condor in Forgotten Cinema, right?
We did indeed.
That's a podcast we have, right? That's going to happen several times this episode, but go ahead.
We, for the most part, like 3 Days of the Condor.
Oh, you don't like it?
No, I like it.
Okay, good.
I agree with both of you about the Stockholm Syndrome sex scene.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, it's a great film, and it's got that espionage feel to it.
There's a lot to like, and it's definitely like the father of modern espionage, kind of,
And they pull a lot from here. You know, I know who Winter Soldier is reading the comics, but there's still that extra twist of Hydra, and you follow that, you know, this storyline through where Cap becomes a man without a country, and he's on the run, which, you know, I like to see. I wasn't expecting the Hydra reveal, and I thought they played it pretty well.
Did you like the reveal? Because I thought the reveal was kind of just, it wasn't as built up. They just kind of laid it out and like, oh, by the way, it's the Hydra's here.
I think if we went back to, you know, how we solved Thor: The Dark World, and we added that extra scene of S.H.I.E.L.D. in there as being more of a benevolent force, this reveal would have been even better.
Okay.
It was a little lacking because the last time we saw them, as we mentioned in the Thor Dark World podcast, their S.H.I.E.L.D. is trying to blow up New York, and we're supposed to assume they're the good guys. It's like, well, you know, they're not quite the bad guys.
Yeah.
But they're also planning to blow up New York. So if they had one more scene where them being good guys, I know we're supposed to be reliant on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, where they are the good guys. We're supposed to trust Coulson and you know, the whole team there. And then the reveal happens in that show at the end of the first season, and that kind of changes the dynamic of the show as well. But I think, you know, we're supposed to be relying a little on that, our connection to that show too.
I know that going back to what you're talking about in terms of 3 Days of the Condor, I know Feige describes the movie as a 1970s political thriller masquerading as a big superhero movie. But for me, there's not enough drama for that quote to mean anything to me. There's not enough. It's a giant superhero movie. I know what we're walking into, so let's not kid ourselves that we're trying to add more like thriller and espionage and stuff like that. I would want a little bit more of that, maybe more of him solving a mystery, maybe. I don't know. I agree with you. I agree with both of you in terms of both of your points.
You didn't get the drama in Black Widow and Captain America's dialogue with each other?
Well, we were talking about that on the way here, that they wrote their dialogue for their scenes together. Evans and Johansson.
I didn't know that.
But I'm thinking to myself, okay, so how much of the script was written by Marcus and McFeely? Because then I read that Chris McKenna did some work on the script as well. So I just imagine all these scripts are just kind of worked over by everybody.
Yeah.
Why are you here? Why are you here? Why do you want to be here? Why do you want to be here?
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you the same question you asked me. No, I asked first. No, you asked first.
That must be such a pain to put this movie together when you have so many hands, you know, so many cooks in the kitchen, as they say. It just must be frustrating to be a director on these movies, or unless you're just kind of like, whatever, we'll be fine. And you know, they're going to make money in the end, so who cares, kind of thing. That must be very frustrating to put together. Me thinking of it, like putting my director's hat on and stuff like that. Did you know that Hawkeye was going to be in the movie?
I did know Hawkeye was going to be in the movie.
And they said no.
They said no. If you notice, Scarlett Johansson or Black Widow has an arrow necklace.
Okay, yep.
And that was feeding a lot of the rumors that they were going to be more romantic partners than they had been, or they had kind of hinted at in Avengers. And then in the next movie, we just go right to Hawkeye's got a secret farm family.
They hint a lot about, I mean, maybe we should get into that with the MCU stuff. I guess in terms of, Mike brought this up to me prior, when they go to the freighter in the beginning and they have that super soldier dude, right? I'm assuming he's a super soldier, right?
Yeah, he's based on a comic character.
But they never go back to him. that whole concept never is brought up again in the movie. You would think that they would have to fight not just quote unquote the Winter Soldier, but other people that are enhanced.
Yeah, and we'll get to that when we get to the comic storyline. But yes, I enjoy Winter Soldier as the villain here.
Okay.
But he's not obviously the main antagonist, that being Hydra within S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
I think that holds up even more when you watch it. I think Alexander Pierce, Robert Redford's character, great. I mean, nobody can compete it. He acts the hell out of everybody else on screen.
He's awesome.
He's Redford.
Yeah.
But I do feel his motivations a little bit more than we've seen in other villains in the past. He's trying to keep, he is Hydra. He's not trying to hide it at that point, but he's trying to keep this organization together, make sure this secret doesn't get out. First of all, how secret is S.H.I.E.L.D.? Because there's a giant statue of the logo in the middle of the building.
Well, this is the first time we see their headquarters in the movies, at least. This is the first time we see any of that. And even at the end of the movie, when in the cutscenes, you find out that like Hydra has many places, does S.H.I.E.L.D. have many places all over the place? Like it seems like this is the end of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Hydra's just like, whatever.
Yeah. We lost one thing, but we
oh well.
have other ones.
Oh well.
But no, I understand Mike's frustration with the third act. I think it's a problem that we've picked up on all of the other films so far, that the third act kind of has some issues. You need to have this big bombastic fight scene. If they wanted to do it, they probably could have been a little bit more spy-like and sneaking onto these helicarriers, maybe stay out of the costumes a little bit more. I think the fights up top are engaging though. Like when you get to that moment, especially Falcon flying around.
Oh, I hated Falcon flying around. He's just shooting guns for no reason at nobody. He's just zipping around like he's playing some video game, shooting the helicarrier. He's shooting the plane like it matters. The plane's bulletproof, dude. It's made to withstand other jet fighter attacks. You're not getting anywhere.
The Captain America franchise has a lot more gunplay in it than the other movies.
Which I like, because Captain doesn't hold his punches when he has to. He's clearly killing guys on that boat.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's taking them out. He's a soldier first and foremost. Like he wants to do good. He's got like that Superman mentality, but that soldier mentality as well of sometimes
and we
you
get
need
to see him
things done.
cut loose in those fights, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they never kind of like in the first movie, in the first Avenger, it's all about killing Nazis. It's all about going over there and stop it. Like he has that, like, I want to stop. I want to fight. I want to fight. And this one, like you said, he kind of doesn't know, he doesn't have an enemy.
Yeah.
But then he gets one and he doesn't really have that same fervor to just, I've got to end Hydra. I've got to kill you. Maybe he doesn't voice it. Maybe that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess you get the sense of it. That's what he's trying to do. But
I think the other issue he had was he wasn't totally on board with S.H.I.E.L.D. anyway.
Right.
So he was kind of caught in between ending Hydra, but S.H.I.E.L.D. is, I don't trust S.H.I.E.L.D. anyway. So he was, am I working with the remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. to beat what is Hydra? And so at that point, he still wasn't trusting of Nick Fury. So you see him wrestle with that.
Well, why wouldn't he go and work with the government and work with the army again? Like, why wouldn't he be more in tune with America, not just a corporation that America has, or in this iteration has basically contracted to be their protectors? Like, why wouldn't he go? If the army is where he grew up and was born and kind of learned everything, you would think that he would have more friends in the army.
Well, he was part of the SSR, the Strategic Science Reserve. So that was S.H.I.E.L.D. That was the precursor to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay. So that he still had
I had that. So he basically was, when he was drafted or whatever into the army, he went directly into the SSR program. So I'm assuming his contract was still with the follow-up to the SSR, which is S.H.I.E.L.D. As far as why he isn't more in tune with America or with the government, I'm going to correct that. Why he wasn't in tune with the government. In the comics, he's always been, and this might serve as a good transition, but he's always been a good political character and a political story to follow, where he's not necessarily the government of America first. It was always America first. And he was doing what was right by his view of the Constitution or defending the little guy, what the American dream was supposed to be. And, I think maybe they could have added a little bit more of that here.
Okay.
But he's had troubles in the past, and, we'll get to it maybe in Civil War when he defects from the Avengers and goes against the government, where he basically gives up the Captain America title because he's worried about what it stands for and what he's trying to fight for. So he's been always about this idea of the American dream, standing up for the little people, helping, making sure that things are fair. And that jived with what he was doing in the 40s, because that was the the government mindset at the time.
Mhm.
We're going to go take down the Nazis. But then when he came back in the 60s and 70s, things were getting kind of crazy. You had Watergate, the Vietnam War. So you started to see a lot of that perpetuate into the character.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think you also get the fact that he's still with S.H.I.E.L.D. because Peggy helped found it.
True.
And so there's a lot, like when he looks at the three founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., he sees, Tommy Lee Jones' character, but he also sees Peggy and he kind of stares at that like,
Mhm.
and that's why he goes to see her to like get that faith back. And why am I doing this? You helped found this. And he says it to her when he visits her hospital bed, is like, you helped found this program.
Mhm.
That's
So
a
I
good
think
point.
part of it is trying to honor her, but to honor her at the end, I got to take this down because it's not what she would have wanted.
It's almost funny that S.H.I.E.L.D. almost is intertwined with the army, just as Hydra is intertwined with S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm just saying. Just throw that out there. So real quick, before we segue into the difference between the comics and the movies, I teased it before, the Winter Soldier.
Mhm.
So according to the commentary on the Blu-ray, the Winter Soldier is actually Captain America, not Bucky Barnes or whatever. Because according to the Winter Soldier title is from an 18th century quote from Thomas Paine, and I'm going to read it. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in the crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he, the winter soldier that stands by it now, deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Now, this could be revisionist. This could be just them being like, hey, so it's actually Cap that he's the winter soldier. But I wanted to get your opinion on that.
That could be why they titled the film that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have been like that because they could have titled this any number of things. Because Winter
Mhm.
Soldier's in it, but he's not in it a bunch, although that's your big reveal.
Right.
So like both he's the villain, but also that represents Cap. So that makes it kind of the perfect story. Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Right,
Yes.
right.
That's him.
Because that's the first one, the Captain America, the first Avenger, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
so
get it.
I like that. Actually, I like that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like the movie more now?
I don't dislike this movie. I just have a lot of problems with it.
I got
It's
you.
still up there in the pantheon of Marvel movies because the story is still good, the
Mhm.
action is still good, it's filmed really well. It's just they've got these moments in it, like that. First of all, Captain America doesn't tie his shoes at all after he goes incognito. He's from the 40s. You tie your shoes. Why is he not tying his shoes? And then when he gets buried under the rubble, he comes back up. He's washing himself. He's got no shirt on, right? But he's got 3 layers on when the place falls on him. Why is his chest dirty?
Because
Did he take his
Dust.
shirt off?
That's
under the
sexy.
bunker?
Goes in.
because that's sexy, Mike.
God, did you not see Thor: The Dark World where they just had to have
He just has his shirt. Yeah,
He
Thor
just
Dark World, he
randomly has his shirt off.
Shirt off. It's like, of course.
No, luckily I have not had to watch that movie.
Yeah. Well, that scene was amazing.
we do have 3 straight movies of we have Thor, we have Winter Soldier, and then we have Guardians of the Galaxy where the protagonist just has her shirt off for no explicable reason.
That Guardians of the Galaxy shot is strictly there so that Chris Pratt can tell everybody, like, I'm not the fat guy from Parks and Rec anymore. This is.
I know you
is
guys
the new
didn't see
me.
Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
Now come see this.
Listen, when you spend 6 months working out, I get that.
Oh,
I get
yeah,
you
for
want
sure.
that's fine, And when maybe when we just do more commercials and you start working out, Butler, we'll do that.
I can
for you
afford
as
a
well.
trainer. Let's go. Let's go.
All right, so now, let's go into me just asking Pat questions about what the hell's going on.
And Butler, feel free to jump in.
Yeah,
'cause I
feel
know you-
free. I usually send these to Pat ahead of time, and then he tells me what we're going to talk about. I guess let's start off with Falcon. So explain to me why he does not talk to birds in this movie now, since he did in the comics. And I guess he had red tights. Just tell me the difference between the Falcon that we see in the movie, and if Mike, you know this too, and the Falcon we see in the comics. Just tell me everything. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's get this one out of the way. Falcon is actually the first African-American superhero in mainstream comics.
Okay.
So he appeared in 1969. He, as you said, wore red and white tights.
Okay.
A
Well, it's 69, so that makes sense.
wing jetpack, and he would fly around and telepathically communicate with birds.
How did he get that superpower? He's basically like Aquaman now in the sky, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Avian man.
The version that we're seeing in this film is more about the Ultimates universe,
Okay.
which we talked about a lot. He was a mercenary, worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. He had that same kind of like wing jetpack, carried a lot of guns. One of the costumes there's a scene with him. He comes out basically wearing the same outfit that he wears during the conclusion of this film, which is the green t-shirt, cargo pants, and then he's got the jetpack on.
Okay.
And he's got a couple Uzis or I don't know,
But
some
he-
sort of submachine.
But in the Ultimates now, does he still telepathically
No.
talk to? Okay, and he doesn't have any other superpowers. He just can fly with the jetpack.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a regular guy.
Well, he's
Regular
really
guy.
good at soldiering.
Yeah.
He's really good at flying around.
He's able to keep up
Shooting
with,
guns.
even in the comics, keep up with most of the other superheroes.
Yes.
But he's just a dude.
He is a dude, but he's a good dude.
I get that. That's
Well,
fine. But I mean,
Technically, he's sort of a good dude. Originally, he was a bad dude. He was in a gang. And then
this is in the original
this
version,
is in the original
69?
version.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So he was in a gang, and then his memories were suppressed, and he was made to think that he was a social worker.
Oh, okay.
And then the memories came back, and he realized he used to be the gang member, Snap Wilson.
Snap Wilson.
Snap
Oh,
Wilson.
my
There was a lot of
gosh.
snapping characters back in the 60s. I don't get it. There was a character, Snapper Carr, in the Justice League. It was, I don't know. I wasn't born then. None of us were born then. I want to know if Snap was a big name.
I like
all that
name.
snapping in West Side Story is actually true. That's absolutely how people just walk around back then.
Well, not that I want to go back into the movie, but I do want to bring this up with Falcon. He just up and up leaves his job as a support counselor for all these war veterans to go back into war. Do these guys just waiting for him?
Mike?
Yeah.
As we know from the MCU's treatment of mental illness, you just go in and say, you're all better now.
They should get the kid from Iron Man 3 to walk in and be like, you guys are engineers. Build something. No, I'm healthy. All right, good. Thanks, kid. All right, so I guess that's Falcon.
If anybody comes up with any type of thesis from this podcast, it's that MCU doesn't have good mental health services.
Agreed. So I mentioned that when you see Frank Grillo in the beginning, you obviously know he's a bad guy. And I know he pops up again in Civil War. And he's Crossbones.
Yes.
So is the Rumlow character where he is now in this movie the same as in the comic? This is not where his
This is not. He
his
wasn't.
Genesis is from.
Yeah, he wasn't ever really a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And Mike could hop in here if he has some stuff.
Do you have some stuff, Mike?
I don't really know much about Crossbones.
All right.
I know very little. I know some, but
Yeah.
I know he's nothing like what he is in the film. But
What about when he? Well, go ahead.
All right, so he was always a criminal. Like basically from day one, he was sociopathic kid.
Nice.
He assaulted a girl and then later killed her brothers who were seeking revenge from him. He enrolled in a school for mercenaries, and this is where things might get interesting.
Like an ulterior X-Men school kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Interesting.
If anybody's seen the TV show or read the comic book Deadly Class, it's
No.
one season on Sci-Fi. Wasn't great, but it was basically a school for like assassins and mercenaries, gang leaders. Takes place in the 80s pop punk era.
Okay.
It was fine.
Yeah.
But
You clearly watched all the episodes.
I did watch all the episodes. But that was the school for assassins. So there was a similar idea where he rolls in this school for mercenaries and assassins. It was actually run by Taskmaster, who's the villain we're going to see if we ever see the Black Widow movie.
on Disney Plus.
On Disney Plus. Note that we're recording this during the COVID-19 pandemic, and Black Widow had just gotten pulled.
We are all
from-
6 feet apart, and we have not touched. Don't touch him.
We're reaching out for each other like a Michelangelo's painting of God.
Or like that cystic fibrosis movie, 5 feet apart with the they walk around with the dowel. Do you ever see that?
No.
I have seen that.
Anyway. So Taskmaster ran this school. It looks from the trailers that he's also going to gain control of the Red Room, which is the training ground where Black Widow was trained and a whole bunch of other assassins were trained. So maybe we'll see a similar kind of, it won't certainly be for Crossbones, but maybe we'll see Taskmaster do a similar type of school for mercenaries. Yeah, he eventually just became a mercenary for Red Skull, wearing the big kind of crossbone, skull and bones costume, black with the white kind of paint and skull theme that we see more of in Civil War. He more recently has been working with the Red Skull's daughter because comics. Cynthia Schmidt. It's spelled Sinthia.
Okay.
Because comics. Yes, that's who he is. And he frequently comes across as the villain against Captain America.
Was this the storyline of his comic, of Hydra infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
and all that stuff? So how much of it is from the comics?
They took from different sources. There wasn't one direct one. I don't know, Mike, have you read the Ed Brubaker run on Captain America?
Yeah.
Where they reintroduced Bucky,
yeah.
introduced Winter Soldier. So they pulled a lot from there. It was volume 5 of the series, Ed Brubaker, who's basically written for everybody, Batman, Spider-Man, Captain America, anybody and everybody you could think of, he's been involved with, has done substantial runs on Batman and Captain America. So in that run, we learned that Bucky survived his last mission, was frozen, and he was found by Soviet scientists.
The same way in First Avenger? The same that falls from a train, that whole thing, or no?
He dies from being on a missile.
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
And their missiles are being shot instead of the big plane.
He's riding a missile like in Doctor Strangelove?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't have a cowboy hat, but
Oh my
he did have
gosh.
a really nice costume, though.
Yeah.
If you thought Falcon's 1969 costume was bad, Bucky has been done no favors.
I'm pretty sure in the modernization, they give him pants.
Oh, do they?
Well, he didn't have
when they look
pants
back again.
It was like Robin. Think about like early Robin.
Oh, yeah.
On.
And he was just Cap's pal Bucky.
Yeah.
He didn't really have a cool
So he
name.
wasn't older. He wasn't like the
No, he was a
older-
kid.
Oh, okay. Mm.
Yeah.
Straight up child,
Mm.
forced to fight Nazis.
In the modernization, I'm pretty sure they make him at least 18
Okay.
so that he could have enrolled for the army. Maybe he was 17. Maybe he lied about his age. I don't remember.
I think
Exactly.
they say he lies about his age.
Okay.
That's how he ends up under Captain America.
That's right.
He lies about his age, but then Captain America takes him under
Yeah.
anyway. I like the shut of your jib, kid. Come on. Let's go fight Nazis.
My gosh.
Yeah. So we learned that the Soviet scientists had awoken him. They gave him the metal arm that he has
Because he lost it.
because he lost
Okay.
the first arm. I'm pretty sure in the comics, the arm gets caught in the missile.
Okay.
So when it blows up, it blows off the arm, and then the rest of his body falls into icy cold Arctic waters.
Interesting.
And then they find him. They do the same thing where they kind of shut him down and reawaken him as he's needed.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually trained Black Widow. That was another one of your questions.
I saw that. He trained her and then they were dating in
Yeah.
the comic. Okay.
Don't you do that with all of your trainers?
Of course.
But the relationship didn't last because they had to keep shutting him down. Missions.
Okay. He not just has the metal arm that's, I don't know, made of whatever. What is it made of?
I think is it adamantium?
You can't say that. Well, no, I guess you can say that now, but you couldn't say that
Before?
in the films at least.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I believe it is adamantium now.
Okay, so same stuff that Wolverine has.
Yes.
Is he from the same in the X-Men movies where he goes in that little fort area in the
Oh, no,
wilderness?
he wasn't Project X.
Okay,
No.
no. Okay, so he wasn't anywhere near that stuff.
He was literally Soviets. He wasn't like Hydra rebuilding him. He was
Okay.
the Soviet Union. Because back
Okay.
then, the Soviets were the bad guys. So
then how does Hydra get their hands on him now in this movie? Did they just kind of just co-opt it and say like he's part of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's an assassin sent to kill the Red Skull
Okay.
by Soviet generals.
Mm-hmm.
So we remove all of that stuff, but he's still out there now. At this point, he's taking down the last remnants of good S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
And then in previous storylines, we had seen that Hydra had been S.H.I.E.L.D. all along, and that's dealt with in the Secret Warriors comic. A really complicated comic. I put it on the recommended reading, but it's not a beginner comic by any means.
Right.
It's a little tough to get into. You need to know a lot of the backstory, but that involves Nick Fury and a secret band of good S.H.I.E.L.D. agents
Mm-hmm.
taking down Hydra that had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. So they're picking pieces, again, like we've seen in the other films, and kind of molding them into a singular story. There's a lot of the personal moments between Cap and Bucky in the Ed Brubaker run, and really Bucky trying to assess who he is, which we get to at the end of this film. They're pulling a lot of that and then just kind of teasing in some of the other stuff that we've seen in other comics.
And he's a nemesis to Captain America in the comics.
When he's Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yeah. And but
nemesis to everybody, really.
then he becomes good the same way they do it kind of here with moving forward with his
He
character.
becomes Captain America for a time.
Oh, that's
He does.
right. I knew that. That's right. Someone told me that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you talked about S.H.I.E.L.D. So at some point, Captain America becomes a director of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes.
Okay. Explain that.
He becomes everybody becomes a director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, he becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He becomes the head of a secret Avengers team. He steps down from the Avengers. He steps down as his post as so he dies in the comics for reals. Sort
In
of.
which one? The Ultimates or the
In the
original?
modern, right before Bucky takes on
So,
the Captain America
there's
role.
no more Steve Rogers Captain America now in the comics
No,
as we know.
now
it.
there is. He
Okay,
comes
he
back
came
to
back.
life.
He came back to life?
Yes.
Can you explain how he came back to life?
Comics.
Comics.
Okay. All right.
So there's, and back to the Winter Soldier real quick. There were 5 characters everybody thought you couldn't bring them back to life.
Okay.
Uncle Ben, Bucky Barnes, Thomas and Martha Wayne, and Jason Todd, who's the second Robin.
Why?
Dick Grayson was the first Robin. Jason Todd becomes the second
You
Robin.
couldn't. Why?
Because it
couldn't
was
you?
such a big deal to kill Jason Todd because Joker kills him and people voted for Jason Todd to die.
Okay.
There's a big voting. Does Robin survive this? And people went, no, he's the worst Robin. And so he beat him with a crowbar and then blew him up.
Oh my God. How long ago was this?
This is in the 80s.
Oh wow. And so all these people can never come back.
That was the
In the
philosophy.
comics.
That was
Okay.
the thought process. Since then,
They've all come back.
everybody but Uncle Ben has come back.
And let me guess, they've explained it by alternate universes.
Yes. Well, they suggested in this one that Bucky was never dead. And that he survived. Well, he was frozen, kind of like Cap.
Frozen again after the arm.
And then we keep refreezing. But
Okay.
initially, he was frozen in the waters,
Right. Okay.
like Cap was. Jason Todd was there. I'm not even going to go into that one. It's bad. Thomas and Martha Wayne, that was an alternate universe where Thomas actually becomes Batman
Okay.
and Martha becomes Joker
What?
after Bruce gets shot by a mugger.
Flashpoint. It's because Flash messed up everything. That's actually I like the Flashpoint comics.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
It was an interesting take. So they all came back to life. Jason Todd and Winter Soldier and Bucky Barnes were coming back to life around the same time period. So it was interesting how Marvel and DC were handling this. One side clearly won, in my opinion. I don't know if you remember. Mike, do you know how they brought back Jason Todd?
I don't
initially.
I just remember he comes out of the grave, right? At some
Yeah.
point. It's not good, but I do like where they've taken Jason Todd as a character.
Agreed.
But yes, his rebirth is not as interesting or well done as Winter Soldier. They really went back and at least like retcon, but also created a new history for him.
Yeah.
With Jason Todd, they're like, they'll bring this guy back from the grave, literally. Let's have a hand pop out of that grave.
So in the storyline Infinite Crisis, we learn that there's a Superboy Prime from a prior Earth.
Oh, don't bring the Earths into this, man.
Along with a couple other
It's getting a little nerdy over
Superman characters. Superboy Prime was a pissy little brat. And he decides to punch his like little space bubble pocket Earth thing. And in doing so, he brings back and changes the history of a dozen characters, including Jason Todd. And Jason Todd doesn't just
he comes back from that?
he comes back from that initially. I think they changed it a few times since, but they don't change that he died. They change that he was supposed to be dead. So he pops up from the grave, as you mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
he wakes up in the grave.
I have that image really clear in my
and
head.
he takes off his belt buckle because you're buried with a belt, I guess. And starts clawing at the coffin until he is able to dig above without setting off all the sensors that Batman puts in his graves now, just for this type of anyway, we're getting way
This is
off
getting
track.
off the rails here.
So
Are we doing a Batman podcast now? 'Cause I am all about that.
I just wanted to make sure that was known that all these characters that everybody says need to stay dead have come back. Cap has a number of times been the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's been a government agent basically all through his life.
Right.
You did ask me, how does he get paid?
Well, in the comics, they say that what I read was that the first time he came back, he didn't get paid. He was just like, he was a bum struggling to make money.
Yeah.
But in the Ultimates, he got back pay.
Yeah.
So they don't ever talk about it in the movie, how he gets money.
I assume he's just still on the government payroll.
They just give him a big surplus check.
Yeah. In the original comics, he had a couple different jobs. So he was a boxing trainer, like sparring partner.
Okay.
Mentioned boxing against Captain America.
This is fair.
Yeah. And then he was also a cartoonist. So we kind of see that reference in the first Avenger when he's drawing Peggy.
Right. Yeah.
That he has, and I think in a couple other movies where he's drawing and stuff. So you see that.
That was when he
reference
was
come
like
back.
small.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he was a little dweeb back in the day.
The serum got that out of him.
Yeah.
Serum got drawing out of him. You're no longer creative, Cap. Sorry.
You went to the gym, bro. You can't be creative. There's a website, a couple different websites have done this, but I'm pulling it from We Are the Mighty. They calculated how much Cap would have in back pay. And the number is somewhere in the range of 4.7 million.
Oh my God. Why would he be Avenger? He doesn't need to. He's got money.
Yeah. Well, and then when he's an Avenger, he usually gets paid. Tony Stark sets up a nonprofit, the Maria Stark Foundation. And through the Maria Stark Foundation, they pay the Avengers. So the Avengers is a nonprofit organization.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
That makes no sense.
People want to defend the world. Is that the scene in the comics where he recruits Spider-Man and he goes, "You'll get paid," and Spider-Man cries and hugs him?
Yes.
I love that scene. He has different reasons for hiring everyone. I'll pay you. Oh, thank you.
And then you asked about the suit too. That's the stealth suit. It's the stealth suit that he wears in
the beginning of the first one.
Yeah. Shortly after he comes back to life and Bucky is still running around as Captain America, Steve becomes the commander of the Secret Avengers, and he just wears this similar design costume. No helmet on though, and just operates from that way. But he does wield a gun because Bucky obviously has the shield.
Right.
So you see a little bit more of that gunplay in the character.
The opening. I made mention that the name of the ship is the what again? The freighter is called the Lemurian Star. It references Lemuria, the sunken continent, the home of the Deviants, a race of superhero humans created by Jack Kirby. Go ahead.
It's really just
they just threw it in there.
They just threw it in there. We might see more about the Deviants when we get to the Eternals movie.
Okay.
Which may or may not at this point be November. Again, who knows?
That'll probably be Black Widow's date, if anything.
Yeah, they might just move everything a date. But I think it's just because Jack Kirby had such a hand in creating the character, they wanted to give him a shout out when they couldn't give him a stupid cameo somewhere in the middle of the movie.
But you mentioned that dude is somebody that he fights.
Baldrock the Leaper.
Okay, what's that?
He's a French villain who leaps.
Seriously? That's it? That's all he is?
They were churning these comics out like you wouldn't believe. They just had to keep creating characters. Which in that note, side recommended reading.
Ooh.
The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon.
I've read it.
Really good on the creating the comic industry in the early 40s.
He's the head writer and showrunner for Picard. Star Trek Picard now. Yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Is he a big Star Trek fan?
He loves Star Trek.
All right. So now we see Sitwell in this movie. And is Sitwell a big part in the comic? Did I ask this already last time about? Because we saw him in Thor, and then we kind of see him again a little bit afterwards. In the movie, he's a villain, clearly, and he doesn't last long.
Yeah. I may have been wrong about this when I answered in Thor, because I went back and reread the Secret Warriors comics for this one. He is more of in this film, he's more of a bureaucratic kind of middle manager.
In this movie?
In this film.
Okay.
In the MCU. In the comics, though, he's a Nick Fury loyalist.
Okay.
He's been a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent forever. When Nick Fury is building his Secret Warriors team, Jasper and Dum Dum Dugan, who is one of the Howling Commandos, they kind of form their own kind of Howling Commando militia group type organization, and they help out and assist Nick in the Secret Avengers in taking down Hydra.
But in the comics, he's a zombie.
Now he's a zombie.
He's a zombie now. Why?
Yeah. He died and came back to life.
Duh.
Some people die and they get frozen or take forever to come back to life. Some people die and just immediately come back as a zombie.
Interesting. Does he still do his job, or does he just want to eat brains?
Part of a more kind of literal interpretation of Howling Commandos.
All right. Well, so in the movie, he references the man in Cairo that Hydra's keeping tabs on, and that's supposed to be Moon Knight.
Presumably.
And who's Moon Knight?
Moon Knight is Mark Spector. That
doesn't help me.
Yeah. He's a mercenary who wields powers of an Egyptian god.
Okay.
Moon Knight is this superhero like Batman.
So he doesn't have superpowers.
He's got these godlike superpowers, but he runs around with sort of. And this is where things get a little iffy because he might be batshit crazy. And I'm really, really hoping when they launch the Disney Plus show.
Is he going to have a show?
He's getting a show.
Like in the new, like with all these other shows coming out, he's one of them?
Yes.
Who's playing Moon Knight?
I don't think they've cast it yet.
They have not cast it yet. They did say it's going to be slightly darker, I believe, which is nice because his comic is a dark comic.
Yeah.
He's one of the Marvel Max, not Max, that's Punisher Max.
I think he was on a
run.
Max imprint. There was other adult runs on the character. I think they've discontinued the Max.
They did, yeah.
A couple of years ago.
I mean, they bring back and forth the adult type comics, but he's always one of them, along with like Daredevil and the kind of the more street level characters, like the Netflix shows.
Okay,
yeah,
it probably won't be as dark as those.
But he's based in Cairo.
He's based in the U.S. I think but I think because of the Egyptian.
They just were saying that he was there.
They were saying that.
Okay,
so
okay.
It'll be interesting how much of this is just like Easter egg versus they take that direct reference to the man in Cairo.
Okay.
And play it up, because now we're talking by the time the movie comes out, or the TV show comes out, 8 to 10 years after this happened.
Right.
So who knows what they'll, if there's anything that'll come of it.
That's true. All right. So I got two more things. We talked about it briefly before with the adamantium stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow references Department H. So what is that? and I read that in the comics, this is where Wolverine got his skeleton, his adamantium skeleton. Is that incorrect?
I think it's around the same. I think it is Department H or one of the departments. It's part of the Canadian National Defense.
Okay.
Because Department H also had Alpha Flight.
Oh, what is that?
The Canadian Avengers.
What?
That's right. Forget Logan. Logan is Canadian.
So hold on.
Canuck.
So now there's different Avengers in different countries.
There's different superheroes in different countries. Yeah.
So like
We
every
just got finished
country.
talking about a guy in Cairo
There's a Captain.
Yeah, but you
Britain.
just said he was from. You said he was. What's up?
There's a Captain Britain.
and a Captain Canuck.
There is a captain. I forget if there is like a captain.
Come on.
Captain
But you mentioned the guy in Cairo is really from New York.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a New York guy. But he's. This is getting very confusing. These comics are getting very confusing.
And the deeper we go into this podcast, it's going to be more. So Alpha Flight, along with Beta, Gamma, and Omega flights, are all versions of a similar organization. Think Canadian Avengers. Characters like Guardian or North Star, which, boy oh boy, North Star had some problems. He was one of the first homosexual characters.
That's a problem?
No, that wasn't the problem. That was not the problem. This is going to get completely taken out of context, but that was not the problem. The problem was how writers did it.
Oh, okay.
Because it was not subtle.
I got you.
And it was because it was early, I think it was early
Stereotypical.
2000s,
Yeah,
and it
okay.
was not subtle at all. And there was a lot of like flack on the internet for it.
Hopefully that's been changed then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it has.
Well, that's good.
And then, of course, you have characters like Sasquatch,
So it's actual Bigfoot,
a superhero version of Bigfoot.
but it's a dude that's just all hairy. He's a giant. He doesn't transform into that. That's just him.
Yes.
Come on.
This is a universe where Hercules is also a superhero.
Like in modern time.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh,
And,
that's right. We did. This is really getting disconcerting.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if, again, like the reference to Department H, or that.
Do you think they're just throwing these things in there?
That's
just
what
to throw
I'm
them
like
in
at this
there?
point, because they didn't have access to. I believe even Alpha Flight might have been owned by Fox. I could be wrong, but I'm not positive. Alpha Flight. I wonder if that's just like an Easter egg or something that they can now follow up on. Like it was an Easter egg, but now they're going to retroactively go back and
Kind of
play
do
with some of
stuff.
this
Yeah. Maybe.
So
So just to kind of bridge the gap between the next segment, which is just this movie in the MCU itself, tell me about Maria Hill working for Stark, because I know it's in the comics, but kind of also talk about that. But I cannot remember her after this working for Stark. So I saw that and I'm just like, that happened? Because there's a couple things in this movie that happens that I don't know if we ever follow up on, in terms of Fury burning his eye patch and then going on the lamb to walk the earth or whatever, and you never hear for it again. So just the Maria Hill stuff first, and then we can get into all the other stuff. Did she work? She worked for Stark in the movie. She worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sorry, she worked for Stark in the comics. She worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. in the comics. What the heck is going on with that?
well, kids, in the summer of 2014, your Aunt Robin decided to take a job with Stark Industries. No, I couldn't see her. I couldn't find anything with her taking a job with Stark Industries, but she becomes the deputy director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, everybody gets that position apparently.
No, Tony became the director.
Oh, okay.
She was the deputy director.
Okay.
And eventually, when Norman Osborn takes over, as we kind of mentioned,
Mhm.
I think in a couple of episodes ago, her and Tony kind of go on the run together.
Okay.
And because comics fall in love.
Okay.
Who doesn't fall in love with Tony Stark?
So then let's just get away from comics, unless you got other stuff.
No.
Her working for Stark, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember that popping up anywhere else in the MCU.
She's at the party in Age of Ultron.
Okay. Well, at the end?
No, at the beginning.
At the beginning when they're lifting the hammer?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're at the
So she's just hanging out there.
she's just hanging out. Apparently, because I forgot this too. Because the next time we see her at the party, it's assumed that she's involved somehow. And then the next time we see her, she was working for Nick Fury all the time.
Well,
Because he's on the helicarrier again, one of the remaining helicarriers.
yeah, so what's going on with him? He burns his eye patch,
Well, he says he's going to go hunt down any other remaining Hydra people.
but then the next time you see him, he's got an eye patch on again, right?
And he had disappeared because the Avengers were hunting down the remaining. There wasn't a lot of follow through with this one.
Yeah.
It's almost like there may have been talks to have a Nick Fury movie in between this and Age of Ultron.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, that's how this looks like it's set up.
It looks like he's going off to do his own thing.
I think he maybe pops up for one episode on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it may have been before this. I think he maybe pops up in the pilot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was obviously before this film.
Were you the one that was telling me that? Or somebody was telling me that he shows up in S.H.I.E.L.D., the show.
I believe he shows up at least 2 times.
Okay.
But yeah, not often.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It was basically their entire budget for this season.
We got salmon. What are we doing? Cut the fight scene. Cut the set. It's all going to take place on the. We're going to do an entire scene in the headquarters. We can't afford to go anywhere else. Cut the second camera.
now they make mention that this whole movie takes place in the span of 3 days, so the Avengers can't really help Captain.
3 days of the Cap.
Apparently, they can't help him. That's why this happens. But
Again, this goes to my point in Iron Man 3, where it feels like Tony Stark has retired as Iron Man, because why isn't he showing up in Thor?
Right.
Why isn't he showing up in Winter Soldier? What's going on?
Right.
That, like,
he's on vacation somewhere.
he's on vacation. I don't care if it only takes place over 3 days. If he's living in New York and he's got the Iron Man suit on, what takes you what? How long is it? A train ride from New York to DC is what, like 6 hours?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, for the most of the part of the film, Tony probably doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
So it's like, what are you going to act on? But as soon as the helicarriers are up,
You think he'd
it's-
show up?
You
I think
get
he'd
to
show up.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you have a choice at that point.
Right. What was it? Oh, so I brought this up in the car right up here, Pat, and because I know this is your favorite part of Endgame, so I want to talk to you about this. I know you cried.
I did.
When he dances with Peggy at the end.
Absolutely.
But can we talk about how selfish Steve Rogers is, that he just rips apart a life that she had? Because in this movie, he's with her at her bedside, and she's had a family. She's had a long life. Oh, no, don't wave the finger yet. She's had a family. She's had a long life. And Cap just wants to be happy. So he just decides that, you know what? And I know what you're going to say, because he tried to say this to me. BS. You know what? I'm just going to erase all that nonsense because I'm going to be with you. And that's it. We're going to live together. So explain to me how that's okay.
So I wondered, because this is the first time I've seen this since Endgame.
Okay.
And I was paying particular attention to the dialogue in that scene between Peggy and Steve.
Okay.
And I wonder how soon Russo's and Feige knew that this was going to be the ending.
Right.
Because there's some things that they've said that Peggy says specifically is, best we can do is start over. So he comes back to her and they start over together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry you didn't get to live your life, which if he's a man out of time living with Peggy, he really didn't get to live his full life.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of hidden behind her. They couldn't let anybody know that he was alive. And then Steve says to Black Widow later on, that's not my first kiss since 1945.
Right.
Because, if he's with Peggy and has a family with them. And then finally, and this one was the kicker, I thought, was she says to him, Steve, you came back, you are alive. And that is when she starts going into the dementia, the Alzheimer's. I think she's flashing back to the moment where they first come back.
No. Because the only thing I'll say to that, I understand what you're saying, and that's fine.
I understand. I appreciate your thoughts,
but you're giving
and your notes, your references. I'm going to ignore.
You're giving way too much credit to the dialogue when I just talked about how Johansson and Evans wrote their own dialogue when they had the scenes together. So you're going to tell me that Evans was clued in on that too? And then he's like, "Oh, what if I toss this line in there when he says that's not my first kiss since 1945?"
Oh, that one particularly. But what about the 3 other lines and that whole conversation?
I think she has dementia, and I think that he made the comment. Mike, go ahead, Butler.
I made 2 comments. Yeah. One, he's gone back in time. He's rewritten history. Or no, he could still be the same guy. They never really say who the husband is. But my second one is he's saved the world so many times. Breaking up one marriage, Captain America can break up one marriage. That is fine.
Captain America is for the good of men and women. It doesn't mean he's selfish.
Of all men and women.
He's a hero.
Screw that one guy. He can go off and get married to somebody else. Peggy is his. He's earned that one person.
I'm sorry. That's just he's not a good person anymore. He's completely erased. She could have had kids that are completely erased from existence now because Cap decided, I'm going to go get me some, and I'm going to go back.
They were all dirtbags.
I wonder.
Speaking of romantic partners for Steve, though, we noticed that Sharon Carter, Kate, the nurse, starts to slowly disappear from this MCU.
Oh, man, she gets the shaft so bad.
She goes, for fans of the West Wing, she goes to Mandyville.
Well, she doesn't appear again?
She appears in Civil War.
Okay.
And then they kiss. And then she's gone for good.
That's creepy.
Though I think she's supposed to come back in the Falcon Winter Soldier Disney Plus show.
Okay.
Which I think will be a great foil for the 2 boys. But yeah, they write out Emily VanCamp, and they could say she's on some resident show on ABC, and that's why she couldn't fulfill her filming duties. But come on.
Did he know that she was the niece when he kissed her in Civil War?
Yes.
That's not good. That's not good.
Well, Peggy was dead. His first love was dead.
So
the second one.
let me get this.
She's his Lois Lane in the comic.
Yeah, in the comic they're together.
Let's go back to your rationale that he's married, that he came back and he's with her.
Oh yeah, it's creepy.
It's creepy.
But he doesn't know that.
But come on, man. But then when he goes back at the end of Endgame, he's gonna figure that out.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be some scenes where he's in therapy.
He's gonna have a scene like Ace Ventura where he's got the plunger on his mouth and he's brushing his teeth.
Don't bring that therapy stuff out here. He's a man. He's a man in the 50s. He's not going to therapy. He's going to repress that and drink.
Oh, he goes to therapy in Endgame, or he runs the therapy.
He runs the
group
therapy,
in
which brings me to another point. You'll notice that the obviously this one's directed by the Russo brothers. The doctor in the scene that's helping Fury in the secret S.H.I.E.L.D. bunker is the Russo brother, who's also the same Russo brother in
the meeting
in the scene.
Which that seems terrible.
It's not a great scene. That scene also has. Is it Jim Steranko? It might be. It's another comic writer, big time. I can't remember exactly who it is, but I'll pull it up for Endgame. In my head, this is my own headcanon here, but I like it to be real. That's just a scene of former S.H.I.E.L.D. guys that are trying to deal with the world after, good S.H.I.E.L.D. guys. And that is able to tie the Doctor back in. And why you're able to, because Cap talks about how they failed. Does the rest of the world know the Avengers failed? Because that would be bad PR.
Right.
Could it just be something that happened where he could go to the S.H.I.E.L.D. support team and they all kind of, I want to start over or whatever.
Well, think about this. And now you're talking about how they failed. Think about how they looked from the outside looking in, where you had a giant in Civil War, quote unquote, in this movie between Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., where S.H.I.E.L.D. is destroyed because they're fighting with each other. Look how that looks from the outside. And then you have the next Captain America movie, which I will argue that this is the last Captain America movie because this next one is basically Avengers 2.5.
Yes.
And again, you have the Avengers fighting each other. So now you have two incidences now where all these superheroes and all these big corporations are at war with each other. What's the public to think?
There's a third one where Hulk takes on the Avengers in the African nation.
Oh, right.
And but that drives the plot of Civil War, that they need to rein these people in.
Okay, so you're saying that this is I can imagine that they kind of knew what the next couple movies were after this in terms of where they wanted to go, what storyline they wanted to go. Eventually, like what's the word they use when they want to sign them up? The registration, right?
The registration.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know if I can believe the stuff in here was going to be something that we're going to complete in Infinity War and Endgame, like you say. I have a tougher time believing that, but I do follow the train of thought that it's leading up to Civil War and all that stuff. Like I said, this really feels like this is his last movie for him. You know what I mean? Because Civil War is not him. It's just not. It's an ensemble movie. Yeah, it's and that's unfortunate because what the issues, I know you still like it, and whatever the issues, Butler,
Cap is still my favorite, right?
But these two movies are probably are a good companion piece together, and you don't ever finish his storyline.
You don't.
He
never gets an end.
Right. It's his storyline is forced to finish 6 or 7 movies later in Endgame, and that sucks
because they waste his appearances. His contract ran out, and he was done with it.
Yeah.
Chris Evans was probably like, I'm going to go off and do stuff like Knives Out and do more independent movies, which he's been doing. He'll probably actually
he's got a new one. He's got a
new
Defending
one.
Jacob. That looks pretty good. Yep, that looks good too. And since we're all home all the time now, we have plenty of time to watch it. I mean, that's pretty much all I have. I mean, if you have any other final thoughts, hit me with them.
No, I mean, just
I like it. Silence.
Yeah. Oh, no, I do have one. And
Okay.
we're going to get to it again, and we're going to keep following up on this stupid line. Is Nick Fury saying the last time he trusted somebody, he lost an eye?
Oh, I know. That's right. The cat thing.
The Captain American thing, or the Captain Marvel thing. I'm sorry. The Captain Marvel thing was just a
you know what? I
stupid
do have
reveal.
another thing. Okay. Yeah.
I was hoping
I think we talked about this.
after
Butler.
this film, and if we were to get a Nick Fury solo film, which would have been fantastic,
I don't know.
you could have maybe
what are they
gone back
gonna
in
do?
time and seen him lose the eye in a more Budapest-like mission that Hawkeye and Black Widow are kind of talking about. And he kind of talks about these like spy missions, or even the one where Alexander Pierce and him are talking about their history together.
Right. In
you could have seen something similar to that.
Bogota? Is it Bogota they said?
Bogota? It was another B one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they could have done a storyline where instead they do it with the cat and Captain Marvel. But he's trusted people since.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Well, he probably has so many stories about his eye. Whatever fits whatever situation he wants to talk about.
So
it
he's
with.
like Joker in Dark Knight.
Well, yeah, but more purposeful, less like I'm insane and I don't remember. He uses it to make his point with whatever.
Mhm.
It's like somebody going to a bar and going, I got this scar, trying to impress a girl, and it's all made up, but really he accidentally dropped like a hammer on his toe or something and mashed it up.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
What I don't like how he uses his dead eye to scan the eye scanner like that. You deleted me from the system, but you didn't delete all of me from the system. They didn't just go and search Nick Fury and delete him.
I like his name but it's like a fake name. It's like Bill Deadeye or something like that. Fake Eye Jones. So I did think of something in Avengers. We talked about this when Cap's opening up the crates.
Yes.
In the back, and he sees that they have the same Hydra technology, and we said, hey, the Hydra label was on those.
Mm-hmm.
Why should it be any surprise in this movie that Hydra's infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. when it was right in front of them in Avengers?
Yes.
On that note,
That's all I got.
so unless you guys have anything else to add, so next time you join us, it'll just probably be Pat and myself because Mike's gonna bail.
We'll bring Mike back for Civil War so we can all be upset with
there
that
you go,
movie.
Mike.
You'll be our Captain America guy.
Mike's like, pass. Matt and I'll be back talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, something completely different from whatever we're talking about. And I assume that the MCU portion of that movie will be of our podcast will be short.
Oh, Guardians?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to see a little bit more of the space stuff and kind of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's it.
it's almost like in that one, they've entered in a new, I don't want to say world, but a new section of
Yes.
this whole universe that
That they
they
have to
kind of
build
have to. Yeah. Right. But as always, we're gonna end it with Pat's recommended reading, and I will sit here staring at him while he does it. Thanks, Butler.
No
Thanks for
problem,
joining
guys.
us.
Thanks
Always
for
good
having
to
me.
see
Hold on. Wait a minute, hold on. Come on, do it.
do the plug.
Yeah, plug our stuff.
Oh, so thanks for having me, guys. If you enjoy the sound of my voice and you enjoy the kind of bickering you saw between me and Field or our disagreements, you can see or hear more of that on Forgotten Cinema, a podcast we do, comes out every Wednesday. It's a podcast about forgotten films that, for whatever reason, seem to have been forgotten by audiences, whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We discuss what we love about the movie or maybe don't love about it, but we always recommend you revisit it. You can find our podcast wherever podcasts can be found or at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com. Follow us on social media at Forgotten Cinema Pod.
And Pat will be on an episode as soon as we end up doing Adventureland because I know he wants to do that.
Oh, there's so many other movies I'd want to do now, like Summer
Oh,
Catch.
thank God. Anything
Catch.
without Jesse Eisenberg.
Ding, ding.
Let's do Summer Catch.
If we do that,
Summer
I'm gonna
Catch is terrible.
I'll put a Jolly Rancher right in your mouth.
Well, we're gonna have to wait until everything subsides with the pandemic. But yes, go ahead.
No. I cough on it first. I go, this is what you get.
Thank God all of this is getting cut.
Yeah, getting cut. Pat, take it away. As always, at the end of each episode, we like to send you home with some recommended reading that follows up on some of the characters and plots presented in this week's film. Our recommended reading section is sponsored by Infinite Heroes, comics, cards, and collectibles in Watertown, Connecticut. If you're in the Connecticut or New England area, it's a great location to pick up comics from Marvel as well as DC, Image, and more. They also have a large collection of trading cards, toys, and collectibles. Owner Paul Santos has worked in comics for years, most recently as an editor at DC Comics. Ask him for a recommendation and tell him we sent you.
First on our list is a long one and should keep you busy for a while. It's Captain America Volume 5, all by Ed Brubaker. There's a number of ways you can read this, either in single issues or through a handful of Ultimate collections. This series starts with the introduction of Winter Soldier, weaves all the way through the Marvel Civil War, is punctuated by the death of Steve Rogers, and we see Bucky picking up Cap's shield. It's one of the most incredible Captain America stories, bringing a world of espionage, more government intrigue, Russian assassins, tying it up in a nice comic book world, but really bringing the characters into the modern day. Highly recommend that one, and you'll see a lot of influences in this film. Switching gears, we have our second recommendation, which is S.H.I.E.L.D. by Steranko, the complete collection. This collects Strange Tales, 151 to 168, and a handful of Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. issues, all by Jim Steranko. He brings this unique style of James Bond meets pop art to Nick Fury. You'll get to see more insight into Hydra as well as meet all the bombastic characters that make up Fury's world. One note, this is the old school Nick Fury you most recognize him as the guy that looks like David Hasselhoff from the early 90s Nick Fury movie. but still highly fun series and really great character work. And then lastly, we'll end with another more modern day Nick Fury focused story, and that's Jonathan Hickman's Secret Warriors, which we touched on a couple times in this one. Listen, we have a couple more we have another Captain America movie and a handful of appearances in the Avengers, so we have time for more Cap recommendations down the road. So I really want to get Secret Warriors out there. As I mentioned, it's not for beginners, but it's absolutely a great read, especially reading it all the way through. Features a ragtag group of agents and superpowered individuals picking up the pieces once it's revealed that Hydra has secretly infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a good in-between for those following along with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, because it focuses on Daisy Johnson, aka Sky, aka Quake. So definitely check that one out. And that's all we got for today. And we'll see you next week.